Commander Jake Morrison stared out the window of his ship at the strange sight before him. Dozens of old, beat-up-looking ships floated in the empty space between two alien territories. The ships were huge and dark, covered in thick metal plates. That looked rough and ugly compared to the smooth, shiny vessels that most species use today. "What a bunch of junk," laughed Captain Zexmora, the blue-skinned alien who led the joint expedition. His long fingers pointed at the ancient fleet. Through the viewing screen, "Look at those primitive designs. Whoever built these things must have been really stupid." Jake said nothing, but he felt uncomfortable. Something about the old ships bothered him, though he could not say what. They looked familiar somehow, but that was impossible. No human had ever seen ships like these before Dr. Lisa Carter floated over to Jake's side. She was the only other human on the expedition team, sent by Earth to study old alien artifacts. Her scanner beeped quietly as she pointed it at the nearest ship. "The energy readings are strange," she whispered to Jake. "These ships still have power after all this time. That should not be possible." The expedition consisted of 12 ships from different alien races. The Galactic Council had sent their best scientists and soldiers to investigate the mysterious fleet. Most of them seemed more interested in making jokes than doing real work. "I bet they used steam engines," said High Scholar Vexthara, a tall, thin alien with gray skin and 4 arms. "Or maybe they burned wood for fuel. How funny that such backward people tried to travel in space." The other aliens laughed at this joke. They all agreed that the ancient ships looked like garbage. The hulls were thick and square, not curved and elegant like modern ships. The weapons looked big and clunky, not sleek like the energy cannons that everyone used now. Jake's ship, the Ranger's Pride, moved closer to the fleet. As they got near, he could see more details. The ships had strange writing on their sides, but it was too faded to read clearly. Some of the vessels were as big as space stations, while others were smaller, but still massive by human standards. "Commander," Morrison called Lieutenant Sam Brooks from the control station, "I'm getting weird readings from those ships. Their metal is really thick, much thicker than it needs to be. And look at these weapon ports. They're huge." Jake walked over too. "Look at Sam's screen." The young officer was right. The weapons on the ancient ships were enormous, much bigger than anything he had seen before. But they did not look like energy weapons. They looked like they were made to shoot solid objects. "Who still uses bullets in space?" Sam asked, confused. Doctor. Carter drifted over with her scanner still beeping. "I'm reading some kind of fusion reaction inside these ships. But it's not like any fusion we know about. This energy signature has been stable for thousands of years." "Thousands of years?" Jake repeated. "Are you sure?" Lisa nodded, her face serious. "The power cores in these ships have been running non-stop for at least 3,000 years, maybe longer. I've never seen technology that could do that." Captain Zexmora overheard their conversation and laughed again. "Impossible. No civilization could build reactors that last that long. Your human machines must be broken, Dr. Carter." The alien captain turned to address his crew over the communication system. "Attention all ships. We will begin salvage operations in 1 hour. These old wrecks might have some scrap metal we can sell." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Something was very wrong here. These were not just old ships floating in space. They were too well preserved, too organized in their formation. And why were their power cores still running after so long? "Lisa," he said quietly, "keep scanning those ships. I want to know everything about them before anyone goes aboard." "Doctor." Carter nodded and moved to a better position with her equipment. As she worked, she noticed something that made her stop cold. The energy patterns from the ships were not random. They pulsed in a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat. Like they were alive, the ancient fleet hung in space, silent and dark. But Jake could not shake the feeling that they were being watched. The ships looked old and primitive, yes, but there was something about them that felt dangerous. Something that felt like they were waiting dot as the expedition ships moved into position around the fleet. Jake noticed that the formation of the ancient vessels was not random either. They were arranged in a defensive pattern, with the larger ships protecting the smaller ones. Even after all this time, they were still ready for battle. "Sir," Sam called out, "I'm detecting some kind of scanning beam coming from the lead ship. It's very faint, but it's definitely there." Jake's heart began to beat faster. "Are they scanning us?" "I think so, sir. The beam is moving from ship to ship, like it's taking inventory of our entire expedition." The other aliens were too busy making jokes and planning their salvage operation to notice what was happening. They saw only old junk floating in space. But Jake was starting to realize that these ships might not be as dead as they appeared. Doctor Carter's scanner suddenly began beeping much faster. She looked at the display with wide eyes and turned to Jake with fear on her face. "Commander," she whispered, "I think these ships are waking up." High Scholar Vex Thara was not listening to the humans and their worried talk. He was too excited about the chance to study primitive alien technology. His forearms moved quickly over his control panel as he prepared his research equipment. "I will take the first team aboard," he announced to the other expedition ships. "We must document these relics before we begin scrapping them for metal." Jake Morrison tried to speak up. "Scholar Vex Thara, I think we should be more careful. Doctor, Carter's readings suggest these ships might still be active." The tall gray alien made a sound that was like laughter. "Commander Morrison, your human worry is amusing but unnecessary. Look at these ancient hulks. They are clearly dead and abandoned. What could possibly go wrong?" Jake watched nervously as Vex Thara's research ship moved toward the smallest vessel in the ancient fleet. The old ship was still huge compared to modern vessels, but it seemed like the safest choice for a first visit. Dr. Lisa Carter kept her scanner pointed at the fleet. "Jake, the energy readings are getting stronger. Something is definitely happening." "Inside those ships? Can you tell what kind of something?" Jake asked. "It looks like computer systems are turning on. Lots of them. The ships are connecting to each other through some kind of network." Lieutenant Sam Brooks looked up from his station. "Sir, I'm tracking 17 different communication signals between the ships now. They're talking to each other." Before Jake could respond, Vex Thara's voice came over the radio. He sounded excited and proud. "Excellent news, everyone. I have found an entry port on this vessel. The door mechanism is so primitive that my tools opened it easily. I am going inside now with my team." "Scholar, please wait," Jake called out. "Let us scan the interior first." But Vex Thara had already turned off his radio. Through his telescope, Jake could see the alien scientist and 3 of his assistants floating toward the open door of the ancient ship. Dr. Carter grabbed Jake's arm. "Commander, all the ships just had a massive power surge. Something big is happening." Suddenly, every ship in the ancient fleet lit up at once. Engines that had been cold for thousands of years began to glow with bright blue light. Weapon systems that looked dead and useless began to move and aim. Warning lights flashed along the hulls of the massive vessels. The expedition ships were caught completely by surprise. Captain Zex Mora started shouting orders to his crew. "Battle stations, raise shields. All ships prepare for combat." But the ancient fleet did not attack. Instead, a deep, mechanical voice began speaking over all radio frequencies. The voice spoke in a language that sounded almost familiar to Jake, but not quite right. "Unknown vessels, you have activated Terra Colonial Defense Network protocols. State your identification and purpose in this sector. The alien expedition commanders looked at each other in confusion. None of them recognized the language, though. Some of the words seemed familiar. Dr. Carter was working frantically with her translation computer. Jake, I think this is some kind of old human language, but it's mixed with other things I don't recognize. Dr. Alex Torres, the human mathematician, on the expedition, was listening carefully to the voice. Wait, he said suddenly. Play that message again. The voice repeated its message. Alex's eyes grew wide as he worked with his computer. It's not just any human language, it's English. Very old English mixed with mathematical codes. And those numbers. They're in binary code, but combined with ancient Sanskrit numerals. What does that mean? Jake asked. It means whoever built these ships knew human mathematics and human language. But that's impossible. Humans never traveled this far from Earth until 50 years ago. The mechanical voice spoke again, but this time it sounded impatient. Warning: unknown vessels have failed to provide proper identification. Defensive measures will be activated in 60 seconds. Weapon systems on all the ancient ships began to aim directly at the expedition vessels. The energy readings from their reactors climbed higher and higher. Captain Zex Mora was panicking. How do we respond to them? Does anyone speak their language? Jake made a quick decision. He activated his ship's communication system and spoke in English. This is Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force vessel Ranger's Pride. We are a peaceful expedition studying your fleet. The ancient ships stopped moving their weapons. There was a long pause before the mechanical voice spoke again. This time it sounded different, more confused. Earth Defense Force? Terra Protocol 77 Alpha confirms human identification. But temporal readings indicate current date as impossible. Requesting verification of current Earth calendar. Date. Dr. Torres quickly calculated the date and transmitted it. Again, there was a long pause. Temporal displacement confirmed. This unit has been operational for 3,217 Earth years. Designation: Admiral Aria, Autonomous. Reconnaissance and Interdiction Array, commanding Terra Colonial Defense Network, Deep Space Patrol Group 7. The alien expedition members stared at each other in shock. These were human ships. Ancient human ships that had been lost in space for over 3,000 years. Admiral Aria, Jake said carefully, what happened to your colonists? Where are the people who built you? The AI's voice became sad and tired. Colonial population was evacuated to secure locations after 57 years of defensive operations against hostile alien invasion forces. This unit was ordered to maintain automated patrol until Terra Command could send reinforcement. 57 years of war? Lisa whispered. Affirmative. Hostile alien forces conquered 17 human colonial worlds in this sector. Colonial. Defense Network has maintained guerrilla operations against occupying forces for 3,000 years, awaiting relief. Jake felt his blood turn cold. Admiral Aria, can you describe these hostile alien forces? The AI began transmitting images and data. As the information appeared on their screens, every alien in the expedition fleet recognized the descriptions and pictures. The invaders that the ancient human fleet had been fighting for 3,000 years were the ancestors of every species. In the current Galactic Council.Hi, Scholar Vexthara's voice crackled over the radio from inside the ancient ship. He sounded terrified. Get me out of here. These humans, they've been watching us this whole time. Captain Nina Rodriguez arrived with the main human fleet just as High Scholar Vexthara was being rescued from the ancient ship. The alien scientist was shaking with fear and kept mumbling about human ghosts and watching eyes. Nina had been called in when the expedition discovered the fleet was human in origin. As the senior human officer in this sector, she needed to take charge of what was becoming a very complicated situation. "Admiral Aria," Nina said over the communication system. "This is Captain Nina Rodriguez, current commanding officer for human forces in this region. Please provide a full status report." The ancient AI responded immediately. "Captain Rodriguez, this unit is pleased to make contact with Terra Command after 3,217 years of autonomous operation. Current status: 17 colonial worlds under hostile occupation, colonial population in hiding, defense. Network operating at 63% efficiency." Nina looked at Jake Morrison with concern. "Admiral Aria, please explain about the colonial population. Our records show no human colonies in this sector." "Negative, Captain. Terra Colonial Expansion Program established 17 worlds in this sector between Earth years 2157 and 2203. Colonial population at time of invasion: 4,700,000 humans." Dr. Lisa Carter was working with her historical database. "Nina, our records from that time period are incomplete. There was something called the Dark Century, when Earth lost contact with many early colony ships due to solar storms disrupting communications." "Affirmative," Admiral Aria confirmed. "Solar storm event cut communication with Terra Command in Earth year 2204. Colonial defense. Network continued operations under standing orders to protect human settlements and maintain resistance until relief forces arrived." The weight of this revelation hit everyone at once. There had been millions of humans living in this sector for over 3,000 years. The current alien civilizations had been built on top of conquered human worlds. Nina felt sick to her stomach. "Admiral Aria, what happened to the colonial population during the invasion?" "Colonial evacuation procedures were successful. Human settlements relocated to secure underground facilities and hidden bases. Population has maintained genetic and cultural integrity through 3,000 years of occupation. Current estimated population: 12 million humans living in concealment across 17 worlds." Jake Morrison could not believe what he was hearing. 12 million? They survived and grew for 3,000 years while hiding from the aliens? Affirmative. Colonial population has maintained Terra cultural standards and awaits reconnection with Earth government. This unit has provided protection and supplies through automated systems. Captain Zex Mora, who had been listening to this conversation, suddenly spoke up. "This is impossible. Those 17 worlds are core systems of the Galactic Council. Some of our most important planets. There cannot be humans living there." Admiral Aria's voice became cold and dangerous. "Negative. Those worlds are human colonial territories under temporary hostile occupation. This unit has complete records of all illegal alien settlements constructed on human land." Dr. Alex Torres was studying the historical data that Aria had transmitted. "Nina, look at this. The AI has records of everything that happened after the invasion. The aliens didn't just conquer the human worlds. They studied human technology, human agriculture, human medicine. They copied everything. The evidence was overwhelming. The database showed how the invading aliens had taken human inventions and claimed them as their own. Farming techniques that fed billions across the galaxy had originally been developed by human colonists. Medical treatments that had saved countless alien lives were based on human research. Even the architecture. Major alien cities copied human designs. Most of what we think of as galactic civilization started with stolen human ideas," Lisa said, staring at the data. High Scholar Vexthara, who had recovered from his fear, was now angry. "These records could be false. How do we know this ancient computer is telling the truth?" Admiral Aria responded by transmitting genetic samples, historical documents, and continuous video records spanning 3,000 years. The evidence was impossible to fake or deny. Additionally, Arya continued, this unit maintains regular contact with human population centers. Observation confirms human communities remain active and viable on all 17 worlds. Minya made a decision that would change galactic history. Admiral Arya, we want to make contact with the hidden human populations. Can you arrange this? Affirmative. Colonial leadership has been monitoring this conversation. They are prepared to reveal themselves to Terra Command representatives. The communication system activated, and a new voice spoke. It was clearly human, but with an accent that sounded both ancient and strange. This is Director Paul Anderson of New Austin Colony, speaking for the 17 Worlds Coalition. We have waited a very long time for Earth to find us again. Nina felt tears in her eyes. Director Anderson, this is Captain Nina Rodriguez. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, I want you to know that we never forgot about the lost colony ships. We just did not know where to find you. We understood, Captain. The solar storms cut communications just after the invasion began. We knew Earth could not help us, so we learned to help ourselves. But we never stopped being human, and we never stopped waiting for this day. The alien expedition numbers were listening to this conversation with growing alarm. If these claims were true, then the legal foundation of the Galactic Council was built on conquered human territory. Billions of aliens were living on stolen human worlds. Captain Zex Mora activated his emergency communication system. All Council ships, this is Captain Zex Mora. We have a major political crisis developing. I am requesting immediate Council intervention. Admiral Arya detected the transmission and issued a warning. Captain Rodriguez, hostile forces are calling for military reinforcement. This unit recommends defensive preparations. Nina looked at the ancient fleet with new understanding. These ships had been fighting a 3,000-year war to protect human colonists. They had been alone in enemy territory, outnumbered and cut off from home, but they had never given up. Admiral Arya, if the Council sends warships against us, can your fleet defend itself? There was a pause before Arya answered, and when it spoke, there was something like grim satisfaction in its mechanical voice. Captain Rodriguez, this unit has had 3,000 years to study enemy tactics and prepare countermeasures. The ancient fleet remains fully operational and combat ready. The news of the human discovery spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within hours, emergency sessions were being held in the Galactic Council chambers. Politicians and military leaders argued loudly about what to do with the ancient human fleet and their shocking claims. Captain Nina Rodriguez tried to keep the situation calm while they waited for Earth's response. She knew that billions of aliens lived on the 17 worlds that humans claimed as their colonies. Moving that many people would be impossible, even if the legal claims were valid. Admiral Arya seemed to understand the complexity of the situation. Captain Rodriguez, this unit suggests immediate negotiation with colonial leadership before external forces complicate the matter. Agreed, Nina said. Director Anderson, what do your people want from this situation? Paul Anderson's voice came back strong and clear. Captain, we do not want to throw aliens off our worlds. 3,000 years is a long time. Many of them were born here and know no other home, but we want recognition. We want our history told, truthfully, and we want the right to come out of hiding and live as free humans again. This seemed reasonable to Nina, but she knew the Council would not see it that way. Too much power and money depended on the current system. Admitting that galactic civilization was built on stolen human technology would destroy many political, careers, and business empires. Her fears were confirmed when Captain Zex Mora received new orders from the Council. His blue skin turned pale as he read the message. "A council has made their decision," he announced grimly. "They consider this ancient fleet to be a threat to galactic security. All human ships are ordered to withdraw immediately. If they refuse, they will be destroyed." Jake Morrison could not believe what he was hearing. "You're going to attack us?" "We haven't hurt anyone. The council believes your historical claims are false," Sexmora explained, though he did not sound convinced himself. "They think you are trying to steal 17 of our most important worlds through deception." "Admiral." Aria's sensors detected the approaching council fleet long before the human ships could see them. "Captain Rodriguez, this unit detects 47 hostile vessels approaching at high speed. Estimated arrival, 2 hours, 15 minutes. Nina felt her heart sink. The human ships were outnumbered more than 3 to 1, even with the Ancient. Fleet's help, they could not win against those odds, but Aria did not sound worried. "Captain, this unit requests permission to activate full combat protocols. The Ancient Fleet has been preparing for this battle for 3,000 years. Admiral Aria, I appreciate your confidence, but we're facing impossible odds here." "Negative, Captain. Enemy forces are using predictable modern tactics against vessels, specifically designed to counter their ancestors' strategy. This unit has significant tactical advantages." Before Nina could ask what those advantages were, the first wave of council ships dropped out of hyperspace. They were beautiful vessels with smooth, curved hulls and gleaming energy weapons. They looked fast and deadly compared to the ugly, boxy human ships. Admiral Kexther, commander of the council fleet, sent a message to all human vessels. "Human ships, you have 30 minutes to withdraw from this sector, or we will open fire. This is your only warning." Nina tried one last time to avoid a fight. "Admiral Kexther, we are willing to negotiate. There must be a peaceful solution to this crisis. The time for talk is over, human. Your lies about ancient colonies and stolen technology threaten the stability of the entire galaxy. We will not allow it." Admiral Aria activated combat systems across the entire Ancient Fleet. Suddenly, the old ships did not look so primitive anymore. Their thick armor plating began to make sense when Nina realized it was designed to absorb energy weapon hits that would destroy modern ships. Their huge kinetic weapons could punch through shields that were only designed to stop energy beams. "All human vessels, this is Admiral Aria. Move to defensive formation behind the Ancient Fleet. This unit will demonstrate the effectiveness of Terra military engineering." The council ships attacked with overwhelming firepower. Energy beams that could cut through planets struck the ancient human vessels. But instead of being destroyed, the old ships absorbed the hits and kept fighting. Their thick armor glowed red-hot, but did not break. Lieutenant Sam Brooks watched the battle from his station in amazement. "Commander Morrison, their armor is designed specifically to fight energy weapons, and look at their counterattack. Ancient Fleet's response was devastating. Their kinetic weapons fired solid metal projectiles at incredible speed. The Council ship's shields, which were perfect against energy weapons, could not stop physical objects moving at near light speed. One by one, the sleek Council vessels were smashed apart by what they had considered primitive bullets. Their advanced technology was useless against an enemy that fought with simple physics instead of exotic energy. Admiral Aria coordinated the battle with mechanical precision. The ancient ships moved in perfect formation, covering each other's weak points and maximizing their advantages. Every shot was calculated to cause maximum damage. "Enemy shields are optimized for energy absorption," Aria explained calmly while directing the battle. "Kinetic weapons bypass this defense entirely. Additionally, enemy tactics remain unchanged from ancestral patterns recorded 3,000 years ago." Captain Nina Rodriguez realized she was watching something historic. The Council races had spent 3,000 years fighting each other. with energy weapons and exotic technology. They had forgotten how to fight against simple, brutal kinetic warfare. But the ancient human fleet remembered. Every system had been designed with one purpose: to kill the ancestors of these same aliens. For 3 millennia, Arya had studied enemy tactics and perfected countermeasures. Admiral Kexther's flagship tried to retreat as his fleet was systematically destroyed. But the ancient human ships were faster than they looked. They're primitive. Chemical rockets could accelerate longer and harder than the Council's antimatter drives. "This is impossible," Kexther screamed over the radio. "How are these primitive ships defeating us?" Admiral Arya answered him directly. "Admiral Kexther, your forces are using the same tactical doctrines that this unit has been studying for 3,000 years. Your ancestors made the same mistakes you are making now. The battle was over in less than an hour. Half the Council fleet was destroyed, and the rest were running for their lives. Not a single ancient human ship had been seriously damaged." Nina looked at the ancient fleet with new respect. These ships had seemed like primitive junk, but they were actually perfect weapons designed by humans, who understood their enemies better than the enemies understood themselves. The news of the Council fleet's defeat sent shock waves across the galaxy. For the first time in thousands of years, the mighty Galactic Council had been beaten in battle by ships they had dismissed as primitive junk. Captain Nina Rodriguez stood on the bridge of her ship, watching as something incredible began to happen. Small ships were emerging from hidden bases on the 17 disputed worlds. Human ships, built in secret over 3,000 years of hiding. "Captain Rodriguez," came Director Paul Anderson's voice, "our people are finally coming home." Hidden human colonies had not been idle during their long concealment. They had continued to develop technology, but they had done it quietly, carefully, always staying hidden from their alien occupiers. Now their ships filled the space around. The ancient fleet like children, gathering around their grandparents. Admiral Arya's sensors tracked every new arrival. "Captain, colonial fleet strength is now at 237 vessels. All ships report ready for integration with Terra Command structure." Nina felt overwhelmed by the sight. These were humans who had been cut off from Earth for over 3,000 years, but they had never stopped being human. Their ships looked different from Earth designs, adapted for their specific needs, but they flew in human formations and responded to human commands. Dr. Lisa Carter was working frantically to catalog the genetic and cultural data being transmitted by the colonial ships. "Nina, this is amazing. They've maintained complete genetic records for 3,000 years. They know exactly who their ancestors were and where they came from on Earth." Jake Morrison received the message from Earth Command. The government back. Home was still trying to understand what had happened, but they had made one thing clear. The colonial humans were to be treated as full citizens with all the rights that implied. "Admiral Arya," Nina said, "what are your orders now that we've made contact with Earth again?" The ancient AI paused for a long moment before responding. This unit's primary mission was to protect human colonial settlements until relief forces arrived. Mission parameters have been fulfilled. However, this unit requests permission to continue serving in a new capacity. What did you have in mind? The 17 worlds contain human populations who have maintained their identity under difficult circumstances. This unit wishes to help them rebuild their civilization openly, with full recognition of their rights and history. Director Anderson's voice joined the conversation. "Admiral Arya, you've been our guardian for 3,000 years. We would be honored to have you continue in that role." The political implications were enormous. The Galactic Council was being forced to admit that 17 of their most important worlds had legitimate human claims going back thousands of years. More importantly, they had to acknowledge that much of their technology and culture had been stolen from the humans they had conquered. High Scholar Vexthara, who had spent the battle hiding in his ship, finally found the courage to speak. What happens to us now? The aliens who live on these worlds? Paul Anderson answered with surprising gentleness. Scholar, most of you were born on these worlds. They're your home too. We're not going to force anyone to leave. But we want the truth told about who was here first, and we want our people to be free to live openly. Captain Zex Mora, whose fleet had been destroyed in the battle, was struggling to accept the new reality. How do we explain this to the Council? How do we tell them that our entire civilization is built on human foundations? Dr. Alex Torres had been analyzing the historical data for hours. Actually, Captain, it's worse than that. The records show that your people weren't just conquerors. You were refugees. The humans took you in when your own worlds were dying, gave you places to live and technology to survive. The invasion only happened after a political faction on your world decided they wanted to take everything for themselves. This revelation stunned everyone. The great conquest that the Council races remembered as their finest hour had actually been a betrayal of human hospitality. Admiral Arya confirmed the data. Affirmative. Colonial records show extensive humanitarian aid provided to multiple species between Earth years 2198 and 2204. Human colonial government voted to accept refugee populations despite resource constraints. Nina realized that this changed everything. The humans had not just been conquered by stronger enemies. They had been betrayed by people they had tried to help. But Director Anderson's response surprised everyone. That was 3,000 years ago. The people who made those decisions are long dead. We can't hold their descendants responsible for choices they didn't make. The wisdom in those words impressed even the alien expedition members. After 3 millennia of hiding and struggle, the human colonists were not seeking revenge. They wanted justice and recognition, but not vengeance. Over the following weeks, a new agreement began to take shape. The 17 worlds would be officially recognized as human colonial territories, but the alien populations would be allowed to stay as permanent residents. The truth about galactic history would be taught in schools across the galaxy. Human colonists would be free to emerge from hiding and rebuild their cities. Most importantly, the ancient fleet would remain as guardians of the colonial worlds, with Admiral Arya serving as their protector and advocate. Jake Morrison was promoted to Admiral and given command of the combined human fleet tasked with helping the colonies rebuild. On the day of the ceremony, he stood before the ancient ships that had once seemed like worthless junk. Admiral Arya, he said, on behalf of Earth and all humanity, thank you for keeping our people safe. Your long watch is over. Negative, Admiral. Morrison, Arya replied. This unit's watch continues, but now it watches over a future instead of guarding against a past. As the ceremony ended, families who had been separated for 3,000 years finally came together again. Human children who had lived their entire lives in hiding saw sunlight on their faces for the first time. Cities that had been buried underground began to rise toward the surface. The ancient fleet, no longer alone in the darkness, took their place as honored guardians of human space. Their long, lonely vigil had ended in victory, and the galaxy would never again underestimate the power of human determination and the strength of human engineering. The ships that everyone had laughed at had proven that sometimes the best technology is not the most advanced, but the most reliable. Sometimes the most effective weapon is not the most sophisticated, but the one that works when everything else fails. And sometimes the most important victory is not won by superior firepower, but by never giving up hope that someday, somehow, help will come.